The moment the woman noticed the imperial seal on the marriage certificate, she suddenly realized, the beggar whose marriage certificate she had just torn up with her own hands was by no means an ordinary person. That imperial seal could only be used by members of the royal family, and no ordinary beggar would ever have it. A sense of urgency rose in the woman's heart. She didn't hesitate for a second. She immediately bent down, carefully picked up the torn pieces of the marriage certificate, and clutched them tightly in her hand. Then she looked up at the beggar standing nearby and said firmly, "I'm willing to marry you in my sister's place. I accept this marriage." The beggar was stunned for a moment when he heard this, and then a wave of emotion welled up in his heart. He hadn't expected that while everyone else looked down on him for being a beggar, this woman would take the initiative to marry him. He immediately nodded in agreement to the marriage, reached out to take the woman's hand, and turned to walk toward the door. The scheming stepmother standing beside them couldn't help but sneer when she saw the scene. She kept mocking the woman, "You're so stupid. You'd rather marry a beggar than enjoy a life of wealth. I bet you'll come back crying and begging me later." She looked proudly at the backs of the two as they left, completely unaware of what she had missed. But what the stepmother didn't know was that the seemingly shabby beggar was actually the current emperor. Years ago, the late emperor had been in danger, and it was the Su family who had saved him. To repay this kindness, the late emperor had secretly arranged a marriage between him, who was still the crown prince at the time, and a daughter of the Su family. He had deliberately dressed up as a beggar and come to the Su family this time to test the character of his future fiancée, to see if she would look down on him because of his apparent poverty. Unexpectedly, in the end, it was the woman who was willing to marry him in her sister's place that passed the test.